This week I learned to interview people. This week we interviewed people such as elders or farmers and Miss Lanier.
My name is Dora and Lanier. I grew up in I was born in the mid-30s, and of course I grew up here in Somerville from the mid-30s on through the 40s, really, and graduated from high school in 1953. But mostly you want me to talk about the depot. My granddaddy was the depot agent, and he did a lot of telegraph work, because that was the main, communication with, other than phones from outside. And he worked there 40-something years. It was called the Central of Georgia Railroad then. And it came all the way through. And I'm really not sure where it came from, but I know it came from Chattooga on down and would go all the way to Griffin, Georgia, which is below Atlanta. And we would ride the train to Rome if we wanted to go to Rome, because there weren't a lot of cars in that time. There were, cars and all that, but everybody really shared them. And we would catch the train at 8 o'clock in the morning there in Somerville at the depot, and we'd go all the way to Rome and get off and shop and do whatever we had to do and come back and get back. The train came back through. It arrived in Somerville at 4 o'clock. But it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. Everything came in on the train, the shipments and things like that. So the trains really played a big part in our lives when I was growing up. The major part of my growing up years were during the Second World War years, which you think you don't remember things when you're young, but when something that big happens, you remember everything that ever happened. We would have the troop trains come through. Now, I was a little young, but I had an older cousin that was around 16 or 17. And when the trains were coming, everybody would gather around. They would bring those troops from up north around Kentucky to go to Savannah to ship out overseas. And we would go stand on the side of the railroad tracks, and the soldiers would throw. It would be just car after car of young guys going overseas. And they would throw their addresses out on slips of paper. Some of them would have them in a rock or something. I don't know how many they threw out, but there were a lot of them, because they went through a lot of towns. So we would get addresses. My cousin wrote to one boy, but then she quit hearing from him, so we kind of think he didn't make it. My granddaddy was the depot agent there, and he did the telegraph operating, and he would have to receive the telegraphs that came in. The reason he worked so long is because most of the young men were gone, all of them. And he was working one Sunday morning, and he got a telegraph that my cousin had been shot down over Germany. He was a navigator on a B-24, and they were bombing Berlin, and Hitler I think they were bombing Hitler's wherever he was up in the mountains. And he got the telegraph that he had been missing in action. His name was Joe Favor, Lieutenant Joe Favor, and he lived with us, and he was a valedictorian of Somerville High School. And as soon as he graduated in 42, he went into the Air Force and trained. And before he left, he came to see us, and he always called me Brett, and he gave me this off of his military dress cap. And he said, "Here's something to remember me by, Brett." I've still got it in the same box. I've never polished it because it has his fingerprints on it. And he was missing in action in 1945.